Hello everyone, I wanted to once again test this camera, but also do a sort of devotional, this time from the Septuagint. Now, the Septuagint is obviously a translation of the Hebrew Bible into Greek, which happened a couple hundred years before the time of Jesus. So it's really interesting to me to see there was kind of some disagreement around Jesus from the Jews, if they were more, Orthodox Jews who stuck to the Hebrew Scriptures versus Hellenistic Jews who would read possibly the Jewish Bible, probably in Hebrew, Aramaic, but likely would read the Greek translation of the Scriptures. So it's interesting to me to see how the Greeks interpret the Hebrew Bible in their translation, and this is one of those examples. I have my Reader's Edition in front of me. That's where you can see the words down here at the bottom, defined 30 times. There are at the bottom, and this is from Ecclesiastes. Now, I have the task to preach on this on Sunday, but this is something I just simply cannot talk about because I don't have enough time. But it is interesting to highlight for a Greek class, and it's just this first line here. Tois pasin chronos kai kairos to panti pragmati hupa ton urenon. So let's look here. So tois, that's a dative, right? Tois, a dative plural, which we know that pa is it doesn't have first or second declension, but actually third declension. And sin is the ending for third declension plural dative. So this is a plural, in other words. Two, and this means each, every, but in plural it means all. I don't want to make my focus go out. To all things. And then you notice you got chronos here. Chronos means time, and we'll talk about what kind of time it talks about here. But the os tells you that it's a nominative, and it's singular. So to all things, a time, we would probably say, would be the first line, comma. And also kai, right? And kairos, which is another nominative ending, a singular ending, a time, and then we've got panti. Now to tells me that it's a dative again, but this time a singular. And a time, to every, and then this word occurs 30 times or fewer, so it's defined here at the bottom as a thing, a matter of deed. So, and a time, to every thing, matter or deed, let's say thing. Hupa means under or by. This is under, the, and then this would be heaven in singular. So if you were to look at this, and I just translate it for you here, let's see if you can see this. To all things, plural, a time, and a time to everything under heaven. At first glance, this doesn't look like it says much, but let me tell you, it says a lot. How do I know that? The Greeks had two words for time. One was this first word, chronos, and this other word here is kairos. You should know these words if you've been keeping up with vocab and have been one of those people who want to memorize vocab. Chronos, you can hear that, is where we get our word chronology. And kairos is another word for time. But chronos is like a kind of time that's unfolding in some type of chronological way of speaking. So it's something that kind of unfolds. It's something that kind of happens. So to all things of a chronological time, there's a time, but a different kind of time. What kind of time are we talking about? Kairos is an appointed time. So to all things a chronological time. There is an appointed time to everything under heaven. So there's a tension of two times here. Sometimes I like to think of chronos, a chronological time, as sometimes stuff just happens. You don't plan for it, it just kind of happens. But in the stuff just kind of happening, there's a certain appointed time by God for things to happen. Let's give an example of kairos, but I'll give it to you in the English if I can get this to focus here. Here's another story Jesus told. The kingdom of heaven is like a farmer who planted good seed in his field, but that night, as the worker slept, his enemy came and planted weeds among the wheat, then slipped away. When the crops began to grow and produce grain, and the weeds also grew, the farmer's workers went to him and said, "Sir, the field where you planted that good seed is full of weeds. Where did they come from?" "An enemy has done this," the farmer exclaimed. Excuse me. "Should we pull out the weeds?" they asked. "No," he replied. "You'll uproot the wheat if you do. Let both grow together until," and then literally in the Greek, "the appointed time of the harvest. Then I will tell the harvesters to sort out the weeds, tie them in bundles, burn them, and to put the wheat in the barn." So even in Jesus' speaking here of where there's weeds and there's wheat, there is chronological time unfolding, but yet in tension with this, there seems to be an appointed time that we can choose to live in. There's a way we can live as if we're weeds in a chronological time, but if we live in God's time, we can live as wheat. And both seem to be coming together and interweaving themselves in our lives every day, which is interesting to think about. Sometimes we get the question as a pastor, why do bad things happen to good people? And sometimes that's just chronology. Sometimes stuff just happens. But at the same time, sometimes stuff happens because we're living outside of an appointed time by God. We're actually not living inside of His will, and that's sometimes why bad stuff happens. Sometimes bad stuff happens here, but God uses the bad stuff as an appointed time for our good. Isn't that interesting? So these two words here, chronos and kairos, in tension with one another in Ecclesiastes, can open up a whole new realm of tension and of meaning that if you are just looking in the regular English, you're never going to see this. It's only in the Greek, and that's one reason why I highly encourage everyone to at least have some sort of understanding of the original language. Thank you.